All right, Exodus 37, let's call this one a talent, not to be confused with talents or skills as we have been talking about it in a previous context. This talent is going to come literally out of the text as it is describing the construction of the lampstand and the amount of gold that actually went into it in verse 24 when it says, he made it and all its utensils out of a talent of pure gold, which is a measurement that my footnote is going to say is about 75 pounds of pure gold, helping us to understand that they were not skimping in this situation. And that whole concept of a talent is a pun that I really thought tied into this whole section, because since it is a unit of measurement and it is also talking about a recurring theme, the level of talent that went into the construction of the tabernacle, this is a point that basically Bezalel steps in. And in spite of his desire to teach and to delegate appropriately, it is talking about now that all of these utensils in this particular section are being made in gold, he is the one who seems to, by name, be called out as the one who is taking the lead in constructing all of these fineries, for lack of a better term. It's not exactly clear because there are some times where he is used, seeming to refer to Bezalel in stepping in to take charge of the construction of other things. But there is a there is a distinction made in a lot of these terms as to what was collectively being made by they or them and what he stepped in to do. And his name is introduced in verse 1 where it reads, Bezalel made the ark of acacia wood. 2 cubits and a half was its length, a cubit and a half its breadth, and a cubit and a half its height. And from there on, it's going to talk about all the things that he constructed in gold as the craftsman who was called by name by God. And one of the things that stood out to me was this. There are times when we want to be frugal. One of our sisters noticed this week, a lot of us grew up understanding the need to save and be wise with money. But we also were taught that in doing work, business, or trying to perfect a thing, there's a time to understand the need to not be penny wise and pound foolish. And that's what's going on here. See, what they're doing is showing us how the best craftsman is coming together with the best materials at the most important part of the construction. And why do I call it the most important part of the construction? Because these are going to be the materials that go into the holy place and the holiest of holies. And so I'm going to take a liberty and say that these are some of the most important parts of the tabernacle. And eventually it's going to carry over into the construction of the temple as well. And so what's the lesson for us? There is a time for us to understand when it is appropriate to be frugal and when it is appropriate to let our best work combine with our best materials so that we can produce the best possible work product that we can. And understanding the difference can be tough in times where resources are limited, but that wisdom can help us understand how, I've heard it before, there are times, I've talked about in previous lessons, where when you reach an impasse, it can seem necessary to press forward to your deadline. But sometimes the counterintuitive step is the most important step or the most productive step. Taking a step back so you can be fresh for moving forward. Likewise with materials. Sometimes you will cause yourself more frustration than is necessary trying to do important work with lackluster either equipment, materials, or circumstances. And sometimes you need to know that even though you need to be wise in your use of funds, dividends, and resources, there are times when you simply cannot be at your best without giving the best materials to your best efforts. And so my prayer for you is my prayer for me, that we learn to discern. Once again, going back to a passage that I have been referring to quite often, James 1. If any of us lacks wisdom, and we do, this is another area where it helps for us to acknowledge the fact that we need God to help us to understand that there is no easy answer. Splurging all the time can leave you without enough to finish. But being too frugal all the time can leave you with a lackluster work product. And so understanding the balance is often an insight that comes from God. So may we step in and ask his intervention to guide us before we waste time and frustration trying to do too much with too little or spending too much at the wrong times. May God be with us all as we make those delicate and difficult decisions. His best to you as you go forward in him, though.